this is a loaf of commercial bread, bought in supermarkets. Compress it, squeeze it really tight. Now, compare that with this, the bread you make yourself, which is easy, cheap, and fun to make. Don't let anyone tell you any differently. And this is all you need to make your bread. Flour, a kilo of plain or wholemeal or a mixture of both. Just wholemeal tends to make the bread a little heavy. 750 mils of water, a little salt, and the ingredient which strikes fear into the hearts of even the most competent cooks, yeast. Now, it looks harmless, doesn't it? But for some reason, people get very nervous around it. Certainly, yeast is alive, but it's user-friendly, and you can use it fresh and get it in most supermarkets these days, like this, or you can buy the sachet variety. You'll need about 50 grams of the live yeast or a couple of sachets of dried. A couple of extra ingredients you can use. There's sugar, which will help the dough rise and also give it some flavor. And you can use oil to give a spongier, richer texture to the dough. Okay, now for the fun part, where we put this lot together. Toss in the flour. It really doesn't have to be a kilo. You can really play with this. The mixture can be sloppy, it can be a bit firm. We can finalize the consistency later by adding water or adding flour. So I'll just put a bit of this in. There's probably about a kilo in there. Add the water. Add the salt. Be fairly generous as long as we don't mind salt. The sugar. And the oil. Sprinkle in the yeast. About 50 grams, a bit more. And we stir it all away. Cover that now with a damp tea cloth and leave it to prove for about an hour. So, the dough should have risen. Let's have a look. Double in size. It's a bit sloppier than it was when we started, but we can soon fix that up when we start kneading it. Let's just get it out of here. So this is it straight from the pan. It is a little sloppy, so we can afford to put some more flour on the board. And we start working it in. Now, this is the fun part. It is the therapy. It's great exercise, and you don't have to knead it for as long as a lot of people think. But we do have to knock some of that air out of it that happened during the proving. So it only remains now to shape the loaf or the bread tin, which can be pretty rough and ready, pretty much like that for this particular tin. But you've got to allow for expansion. It will double in size again, but that's just about right. And once more, we cover it with a cloth and leave it for another hour. So the time is up. Let's see how our bread has risen. And yes, it has risen. All it remains to do now is simply put it in the oven. But first, I usually sprinkle a little flour over the top. You can, in fact, use glazes, but I find it too complicated. It's much easier to do this. It still gives you a texture, and it's off to the oven. 200 degrees, approximately. And it's in there for about 3/4 of an hour. Okay, the moment of truth. Smells fantastic, looks terrific, but is it cooked? We'll soon see. Now, we just have to tap its bottom. It sounds hollow, it's cooked, and it sounds hollow, it is cooked. If it wasn't cooked, it goes back in the tin. This one is perfect. And so to the final test, the taste test. Just see how we went. Now, one of the best ways of proving your bread is to have it hot with olive oil, virgin olive oil, and some crushed garlic. Plus a small glass of red wine. Bon appetit. Magnificent.